Hey guys, welcome back. So getting back into the Immortal Hulk, which is a run that is just saturated with fan appreciation, in my opinion, because even with the constant chaos throughout this series, it's not like things are just coming out of nowhere. And so before we get right into this, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so at this point in time when we had seen Xemnu arrive, and in the eyes of the public take down these creatures from Monsters Island, who were also summoned by Dario Agger, it was clear to us as the reader that this was being done as a tool to sway the persuasion of the masses. Because on top of this, with Xemnu using his radio telepathy to beam through all the news and media cameras as he was getting torn to pieces by the Hulk, it was very similar to the same method he had used years ago when he had the world believing that he had his own TV show and that he was some positive influence for children. But in modern day, it seems like that influence has been amplified 100 times over. And with doing so, it's not only like Xemnu wants to resume the positive influence of who he was, but in addition to that, he wants to be the world's definitive Hulk, as well as take the place of other heroes within the people's memory to almost make it seem as he had never left. But even with doing this, it's like he's subbing himself in with pre-existing memories, which is something that can be even a bit more tricky with today's technology. But as we've seen with the fight, and I can't even call it a fight, it was more like a tear down, because the Hulk pretty much pulled a J-rig everything with Xemnu. Like, let's tear down this cyborg and see how it ticks. But with this encounter being cut short, with Dr. McGowan pulling the Hulk out of there, mainly because she knew that the Hulk was doing more harm than help, and that tearing down Xemnu would only make things worse. But on the flip side, this is exactly what Dario Agger wanted, and even to take it a step further, it's more than what he had expected. And the effectiveness of this is the result of a few things that have been in play. Because one, Dario Agger, he controls the majority of the news media, and I want to say even portions of social media, but with doing so, this allows him to give a majority of the world tunnel vision to what and where he wants everyone to look at, which for Xemnu literally amplifies his power, because it's not like he has to do the old-fashioned reaching up to a satellite and transmit a signal back down to whoever might have a television, because now everyone has a television in their hand. Everybody, young and old, has a cell phone, they have an iPad, and even if they're not watching the news, they're on social media. So with doing that, they're all readily available for whatever influence to make it their way. But also during the process of explaining this to Dario Agger, Xemnu also makes his attempt to place his influence over Dario Agger as well. And with doing so, he makes the suggestion of making Earth his new magic planet, but of course it doesn't work because the Minotaur's mind is shielded, and Dario Agger's pretty much like, you want the planet Hope? Nah, that's not gonna happen. But also at this time, with Xemnu needing to complete his repairs, because practically he's a cyborg, and after his recent encounter with the Hulk, not only did he need physical repair as far as his machine parts, but he also needed sustenance for the portions of him that are still organic. And one of Dario's men was like, hey, I'll find somebody that ain't nobody gonna miss, we'll find somebody, that ain't no problem, that ain't no problem. But no, Xemnu was pretty much like, I'm hungry now, I need to eat now. And in that moment, Xemnu just contorted forward on all fours to where his back opened up like a blender. And it's like you can even see his haunting red eyes glowing off the reflection of the floor. Like straight up out of a horror film. Or like your Tales from the Crypt, or even Tales from the Dark Side. And I'd even more so say Tales from the Dark Side, because Tales from the Dark Side had your myth of the Grither. But on top of this, like jumping back to Robert Bruce Banner. And I say his full name for a reason, because the world pretty much goes back through his full history, and it's here that we see, as a result of Xemnu's influence, everything about your Robert Bruce Banner Hulk, it has all been flipped and skewed to be perceived in the worst way possible. And this stretches all the way back to his origin with the Gamma incident, all the way through the events of World War Hulk, which is one of those things to where the Hulk ought to be like, okay, well, I'll let you have that one. Because really, it ain't that hard to make World War Hulk sound like Hulk was the bad guy. But on top of that, and I'm sure it flipped through much more of his history, but with it stretching throughout many of these moments and reaching up till now, with Bruce Banner declaring war against the world, it really just showed us that Xemnu had put into place the complete opposite for the Hulk, with making Banner out to be the definitive bad guy. But in the case of Banner, as far as the general public, like the general public, they found it pretty easy to turn on Banner and the Hulk. But with others who know the two of them, like Amadeus Cho and Jackie McGee, with them you could see a bit of conflict with reason. because with Amadeus Cho, he has like that classic reasoning with, okay, the Hulk might be a little bit crazy, but at least Banner's trying to pull him back and guide the Hulk so he's not completely unhinged, which was pretty much how it was before, all the way up to Avengers No Surrender. But I don't think Amadeus is aware of that because at the time I believe he was on Sakaar. But in the case of Jackie McGee, she's now torn between this place of blaming Banner for the death of her father, but she still recalls the recent acts of the Hulk saving her life and her remembering meeting the Hulk and realizing he's different than what she expected. But after this, jumping back to Shadow Base Site G, to where at this time we know that something is not right with Banner. To where at this time he's looking in the mirror and he's constantly saying nothing is wrong, and at this point in time the Savage Hulk who's in there, he's still wilding out. Because if you guys remember, back when Dr. McGowan pulled him back to Shadow Base Site G, we had noticed at the time that the Savage Hulk was trying to tell them something, and not long after they had gotten back to Shadow Base, Devil Hulk had taken over for a little while, and at the time he had proposed what is still kind of the lingering question, what is a Hulk? Which is something that I really feel like the series will double back to when Xemnu and Banner go for round 2. But jumping back to where things are now, Rick Jones comes in to check on Banner, and it's here where Banner tells Rick that they've been spending too much attention on Roxxon Corp and that they should move their focus towards smaller targets to shake up the humans and put them to fear. And immediately Rick recognizes that this does not sound like Banner, which it doesn't, because this is not the plan of Banner, because like we talked about before, his plan of destroying the world is actually his method of saving the world, and even more so saving the people. But the key thing to pay attention to in this moment is that Bruce Banner, he corrects Rick Jones here by telling him don't call me Bruce Banner, but instead refer to me as Robert Bruce Banner, which essentially means that Bruce Banner has been affected by the influence of Xemnu, to where at this point not only does he believe the history which Xemnu has fed him of him being the bad guy, but it's also in a way skewed his intentions to line up with the fabricated history which Xemnu has given to the world. But also at this time you have Dr. McGowan who goes to speak to Doc Samson, which she is doing after speaking to the Devil Hulk. But with this, she shows Samson a recording of her speaking to Rick Jones and Harpy about her history, which we had talked about in the previous video with her running into Daredevil while she was working for the Kingpin. And this is a bit of what I was talking about as far as the modern technology working for Xemnu but also working against them, because when you take factual history and moments from people's memory and you take that and place in their mind something completely different, like it doesn't matter how real you want to make that thing appear, because even with these screens that are available to everyone, you also have cameras. So alongside of these memories, you also have recordings, you have audio, you have proof of what truly conspired during that time. Which is why like those memes that was going around with the deep fakes saying like, I'm gonna tell my kids this was absolute carnage, like as close as they look, things like that just won't work in reality. But back to this conversation between Dr. McGowan and Doc Samson, to where after playing him the footage and confirming that what was said on the footage contradicted her memory, it was here that she realized what Xemnu was doing. Because essentially it's the Mandela effect but on a larger scale. Because essentially the Mandela effect was this thing where a number of people who remembered Mandela's funeral taking place in the 80s, number of years before he died. And to this day there are a number of articles about this on the internet, like in real life, where people believe like this is proof of alternate realities, so on and so forth. But it's also here where Dr. McGowan goes on to tell Doc Samson that she had figured out that it's the same case with Xemnu's TV show, The Magic Planet, which come to think of it is a contradiction within itself, because back when Xemnu had did the whole TV show thing, it was actually called the Astronauts, of which thank God that wasn't a real thing either. But on top of Dr. McGowan figuring this out, like here's another thing, because when she asked Doc Samson if he knows that she was transsexual, and Samson was like, well yeah I knew, I just didn't want to bring it up. But when she mentions this, it immediately takes me back to our talks in the previous video about her history before working with Kingpin, to where I kind of speculated to her working with the Weapon X program, because she was holding the same Captain America cup, or a very similar Captain America cup, with one being a Funko Pop and the other one being just the shield. But now I really feel like she had this transition between the time she had worked for Weapon X and just before she had been hired by the Kingpin, which could have been possibly for her hiding her identity and not wanting to be associated with Weapon X, or perhaps even her involvement with like Weapon 30. But even now it's like all of this just points right back to her. But even still, I feel like that's another video for another time. But with her more or less figuring out what Xemnu has been doing, and her realizing that it has taken its effect on her, but also realizing with Doc Samson remembering the old TV shows that Xemnu had made, which once again did not actually exist, this then brings the both of them to the realization that one, not everyone is as susceptible to the influence as others may be, but with this happening, Hulks are definitely not an exception, which immediately causes them to go check on Banner, with him punching back into the mirror and expressing that the Hulk was being a distraction, and on top of that, a distraction that he just got rid of. But here's the thing, like even with your manipulated Banner blocking out the Savage Hulk, like Savage Hulk at this point in time, he's really just trying to express the same thing that he was trying to tell to Dr. McGowan in the first place when she had pulled him away from Xemnu. But the problem is just that the Savage Hulk, he's not the best communicator, which is why at the time the Devil Hulk had stepped in. But now with the Savage Hulk still trying to get this message through and trying to smash it through to Bruce Banner, a different Hulk then steps forward telling him that he understands what Xemnu is doing and that resolving this is not something that the Savage Hulk can just smash his way through to. And this is where we find out that he's been approached by Green Scar Hulk, who is towering over Savage Hulk. But it's funny because he tells Savage Hulk like, Xemnu isn't stronger than we are, but just to be clear, I'm the strongest one there is. And this is insane because like ever since Absolute Carnage, we had seen the discussion between the different Hulks when they were deciding whether or not they would let the Venom symbiote in, and at that time we knew that there were more Hulks in there, and we were kind of wondering like, when are the other ones gonna chime in? And it's like now we're finally getting that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, like as far as in comparison, like Xemnu is no match for Savage Hulk. And if Dario Agger could have taken out Savage Hulk by now, he would have. And I'm telling you man, like if you take Dario Agger and Xemnu and place them against Green Scar Hulk, you pretty much got a matchup that's looking like two popsicles versus a flamethrower, because neither one of those guys was built for this force of nature. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm just excited to see Green Scar back, and I just hope that he doesn't end these guys too quickly, because I truly want this to take its time, and I want Green Scar Hulk to stick around for a while. Because could you imagine like with the Hulk who has taken over Shadow Base, like using those new resources and like refashioning his armor, his weapons, and not even because he needs them, but just like his new toys and accessories to display with this newer version of this Hulk. Like, oh man, like this could be insane. But real quick, just want to give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who would like more information on how to become a Patreon and support the channel, I got a link down in the description where you can visit patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let me know what you guys think about the return of Green Scar Hulk, who for the longest time has been suppressed by Banner since World War Hulk, to where it seems like now he's able to bypass that. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.